You are listening to TBR Radio Presents, the Dixie Heritage Show, with your host, the director of Dixie Heritage, Dr. Ed DeVries.
Is the deck of the internet stacked against Southerners? The South, the Confederacy, things Southern, and so forth. Is there a genocide of Southerners and Southern culture that's taking place on the internet? I decided that I was going to investigate that this week, and this is basically what I found out. What I decided to do is I decided to use the search engine DuckDuckGo. For those of you who are not familiar with DuckDuckGo, DuckDuckGo, you type in whatever it is you want to search for, just like you would in other search engines such as Google or Bing. But unlike Google and Bing and other search engines, DuckDuckGo doesn't record your IP address and then send that information to others so that they can target you with advertising. In other words, it's a private search engine. Your searches are not recorded and then potentially used against you at a future date. And so a lot of people are gravitating towards DuckDuckGo because they can search with a little bit of privacy. And that's a good thing. And so the way DuckDuckGo works is DuckDuckGo looks for whatever it is you're typing the search block there, and it looks for it in Google and in Bing, and it gives you the top search results. In other words, you're getting the same results that you would be getting in Google. The only difference being is that that your search isn't being recorded, your IP address isn't being recorded, and so forth. So you're doing it with a certain level of anonymity and a certain level of privacy. And so I typed white genocide into DuckDuckGo. That's where I started with. I figured let's just start with something, grand here. Let's not start with something simple. Let's start with something grand. And so I typed white genocide into DuckDuckGo to see what I would get. And do you realize that for the first 9 pages of search results, every article, every web page that came up was denying that there was a white genocide and castigating anybody who would dare to believe in a white genocide? I had to go 9 pages into the search results before I could find any actual factual information on white genocide. I had to go 11 pages into the search results before I could find any information that was really objectively looking at the matter at all. And so the left, if you will, those who would deny, for example, the white genocide, which is primarily happening in South Africa, but it's happening in other parts of the world as well, those who would deny that and who would refuse for us to know about that, they're basically the ones who are controlling. They're not only controlling the narrative in the mainstream news media, they're even controlling what comes up when you look for these things on the internet. For example, are you really going to go 9 or 11 pages into search results when you type in anything in Google or Bing or DuckDuckGo or whatever search engine you use? Are you going to go 9 and 11 pages in to get your information? Of course you're not. You're going to go 1 page in, maybe 2 or 3 pages in, and that's about it. And now what I'm not saying is that the 9th and the 11th web page to come up in the search. I'm saying 9 to 11 pages of search results. Okay, there are 10 websites for each page of search results. That means that roughly number 97 and number 114 in the search results were the first 2 articles or web pages that I could find on the subject of white genocide. Who is going to scroll through 90-some findings and then read the one that had some information? Most people aren't going to do that. So effectively, they've not eliminated the information from the internet, but they've made sure that you'll not find it. And that people who are honestly searching for information won't find it. There was another subject that I typed in. This was actually the third thing that I typed in, but I will mention it second. and I typed in the word Confederate. And the first page of search results was pretty mundane. What states were in the Confederacy? The word Confederate defined by Merriam-Webster's dictionary. Things of that nature. Roget's thesaurus. Synonyms for Confederate. Benign things. But starting in page 2, the search results were very critical of the Confederate States of America. Page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6. I had to go 13 pages in before I found an article or a web page. That means 130 search results before I found a web page that was positive towards the Confederacy or the Confederate States of America. And so again, we are talking about a very, very critical situation here. Anybody who is looking for information on the Confederate States of America, or even just typing in the word Confederate, they are going to be bombarded with website after website after website castigating and criticizing the Confederate States of America and the South and Southerners. They're going to be bombarded with attacks against the Confederate flag and with attacks against so-called white supremacy and racism. And they'll have to go over 130 search results in before they'll find anything that says anything of a non-negative nature about the Confederate States of America. And then another thing that I typed in, things of interest to Southerners. Now, I got some very interesting results when I typed in things of interest to Southerners. For example, 183 things to do in southern Minnesota. How did that make the top of the list? List of attractions in Tucson. 23 best things to do in southern Indiana. The top 10 things to do in southern Idaho. 15 fun things to do in southern Idaho. 628 things to do in southeast Michigan. Folks, even if there are 628 things to do in southeast Michigan, I have no desire to go and do any of them. The 15 best things to do in Connecticut. Now we're at page 2 of the search results. Top things to do in southern Oregon. The 10 best southern Mexican points of interest. Well, we're getting a little better there. Top things to do in southern Maryland. 10 top things to do in southern New Hampshire. Travel southern Oregon. 10 things to do in the Shawnee National Forest. Top 10 things to do in southern West Virginia. 8 amazing things to do in southern Illinois. Points of interest in Arkansas. Well, at least we're getting to the Confederacy now. Things to do in Southern Shores, North Carolina. Well, again, at least we're in the Confederacy now. South Texas attractions. Mississippi attractions. Southern Alabama tourism. Hey, at least we're in the Confederate States now. Sequoia Kings Canyon Park day trip. Places of interest in Southern California. Southern Pines, North Carolina. Southern Minnesota. Underberg, places of interest. Where's Underberg? I think it's somewhere in Germany. Anyways, music archives. Visit Mississippi. Southern Virginia. Virginia is for lovers. Southern Maryland. Visit maryland.org. Places of interest in the southern suburbs. Southern suburbs of where? Cape Town. That's in South Africa. 10 best things to do in southern New Jersey. Do you realize that I had to go 21 pages in? That's over 210 search results before I found anything that had anything to do whatsoever with the Confederate States of America. Anyways, we're about 10 minutes into our program now. TBR Radio Presents, the Dixie Heritage Show, so we have to break for a commercial, but we'll be back, and I'm going to share with you the 15 best things to do in Southern Virginia. All right, I'm on the phone again with Dr. William Von Peters, who has been my personal doctor for the last 10 years. We have a dear lady in our church, Dr. Von, who suffers from Lyme's disease. Is there anything that you could do to help her?
Lyme Quest, and I've had people tell me that the Lyme Quest is the only formula that they've ever found that actually seemed to help them.
What is the secret of LymeQuest that makes it effective when other treatments people are saying aren't working so well for them?
Basically, what it does, it will cross the blood-brain barrier to be able to get the body so that it can recognize Lyme. Because Lyme's is a spirochete that will basically go into kind of a dormant stage as a cocoon and then come out periodically to replicate and then go back dormant again. And so as it's doing this, it gradually destroys the immune system. So what we've done is basically use the homeopathics that deal with the spirochete so that the body will recognize it and get past its camouflage so that it can act against it. And so that the most people will notice an improvement in their symptomology and everything as their immune system becomes stronger and not depleted by the Lyme spirochete. Because homeopathy, the philosophy is like cures like. And whereas allopathy, which is what the MDs use, is opposite cures. So, if you have something that, for example, if something's too hot, you give something that would cause a heat in the body, and it will tend to dissipate the heat then. Such as coffee on a hot day is an example of that in real life. We don't make, in none of our products do we make medical claims for. It's just to assist the body in healing and being able to heal itself, but we make no medical claims for it.
And so if somebody wants to get LymeQuest, try it for themselves, what do they need to do?
Basically, just go to the website for a company, LifeQuest Formulas, and so that would be www.life, Quest, Quest, Formulas, that's plural, lifequestformulas.com.
All right, lifequestformulas.com, and for our radio listeners who happen to be watching on YouTube, that'll be on the screen as well. You'll want to go to LifeQuest Formulas, and you'll want to check this out, and you'll want to check out some of the other homeopathic products that Dr. Von Peters is offering there as well. And we're back here on TBR Radio Presents, the Dixie Heritage Show, and we were talking about what happens when you type things that are of interest to Southerners into your favorite search engine. And when we finally got to something that had to do with the South, with the Confederate States of America, one of the first things that we came to was the 25 best things to do in Southern Virginia. And when you pull up that website, you actually get a list that only contains 15 things to do. Maybe there aren't 25 great things to do in Southern Virginia. I don't know. But in the list of 25, they only actually give you 15. And the first of those is the Martinsville Speedway. It's owned by NASCAR. NASCAR, a non-athletic sport centered around rednecks. Now, if there's anything that is anti-Southern, anti-Confederate, it is NASCAR. And that's the number one thing to do in Southern Virginia. I guess that means I won't be vacationing in Southern Virginia anytime soon, because to be quite honest, I don't give a flying flip rat's patootie about the non-athletic sports centered around rednecks. Anyways, the number two thing is the Tank Museum in Danville, Virginia. Actually, it looks like a pretty cool place to go. And they've got some pretty interesting tanks pictured there on their website. And so if I'm ever down around the Danville, Virginia area, I'll definitely want to check out the Tank Museum. Looks like a really cool place to go. Has nothing to do with the South or the Confederacy because, let's just say that cavalry back in those days wasn't armored warfare, but they actually rode around on horses, not in tanks. But still, I think this Tank Museum's a cool place. And if you're ever down in Danville, check out the Tank Museum. The third thing is Danville's Riverwalk Trail. And the fourth thing is Occonochee State Park in Clarksville. Take the last train to Clarksville, and I'll meet you at the station. And we'll go to the Occonochee State Park in Clarksville. And then there's the Virginia Museum of Natural History. And it's located in Martinsburg, Virginia. And you'll definitely want to check that out. Then there's the Danville. A lot of things in Danville. The Danville Museum of Fine Arts and History, located at 975. Wow, my internet's moving slowly. Okay, I had clicked on this Virginia Museum of Natural History in Martinsville, and then when nothing came up, I just moved along, and now finally that webpage has come up. And so let's look at that here. The Virginia Museum of Natural History in Martinsville, located at 21 Starling Avenue in Marlinsville. It was founded in 1984. And it has several award-winning publications, is affiliated with the Smithsonian Institution, and has more than 22 million artifacts. This includes the first intact stromatolite head ever found in Virginia, which is one of the largest complete heads in the world at over 5 foot in diameter and weighing over 2 tons. And so the Virginia Museum of Natural History in Martinsville. Sounds like it would be a lot of fun. And then there's the Danville Museum of Fine Arts and History, located at 975 Main Street in downtown Danville. It's apparently over there by where the Sutherland Mansion used to be. And then there's the Danville Science Center, and it's affiliated with the Science Museum of Virginia. And then another place in Martinsville is called Dick and Willie Passage Rail Trail. Dick and Willie. Instead of Waylon and Willie, it's Dick and Willie. Anyways, don't want to go there. Preston Wold Plantation and Gardens. Click on that there. And let's see, it's located in Clarksville. So again, we'll take that last train to Clarksville. And it's located at 429 Preston Wold Drive in Clarksville. And it looks like it would be an interesting place to go to if you like to look around at old houses and such. I'm sure there's a lot of Confederate history to be discovered there if someone would care to point it out to you. But their website says absolutely nothing about it whatsoever. Click more attractions here. And we have the Dan Daniel Memorial Park in Danville. We have the Two Witches Winery and Brewing Company. The South Hill Model Train Museum in South Hill. Hudson Heritage Farms in South Boston. That's not South Boston, Massachusetts, folks. That is South Boston, Virginia. It's in the Halifax, Virginia area. Anyways, it's talking about livestock here, but all I'm seeing are pictures of puppies. And then there's the Piedmont Arts Museum in Martinsville and the Tobacco Farm Life Museum of Virginia, which shows pictures of baseball artifacts. And so those are the 15 top things to do in Southern Virginia. And you notice that none of them have anything to do with Virginia's rich history in the war between the states. And I'm quite sure, folks, that the Virginia Department of Tourism has done that very much on purpose. Anyways, we are going to break for a commercial, and then we'll be back with more of TBR Radio Presents, the Dixie Heritage Show. Phone with our good friend Clint Lacy. So your newest project is you've started a publishing company, Foothills Media, and you'll be publishing 3 tremendous books. The first of those is your book, The Beginner's Guide to False Flags. Why don't you tell us just a little bit about that book?
If you were wondering how we ended up at this point in our history and everything's going on, Beginner's Guide to False Flag takes you from the beginning of the country until the election of Donald Trump, Charlottesville, the rise of the communists, and the Russian collusion hoax. The rape of Delaware County is a story in which a United States veteran defended himself against a known drug felon, only to find out that the local police were in on it. Crooked prosecutors, and one of those prosecutors was actually arrested coming back from an island in the Caribbean in a murder-for-hire plot. And it just details just how corrupt one small county can be. And in the book, I said that Delaware County, Oklahoma, in the past was a safe haven for outlaws from Missouri and Arkansas. And what the reader will find out, it still is. Blood in the Ozarks, expanded second edition, 156-year-old government cover-up in which out-of-control Union officer led his men to murder men, women, and children at a Christmas gathering in the Missouri Ozarks. I found it Foothills Media in 2019 because I'm dedicated to bringing you the truth.
Thank you, Clint. I know that our listeners are going to want to check out Foothills Media, so tell them how they can do so.
Well, you can visit us at foothillsmedia.net, and that will take you to our website where you can browse the books, read our blog posts, and catch up on news that you won't find anywhere else in the mainstream media. foothillsmedia.net.
And we're back here on TBR Radio Presents, the Dixie Heritage Show, and we're talking about how the deck of the internet is stacked against Southerners and things Southern. And so what I decided to do was I decided that I would help the search engine out just a little bit, and I would type in, with a little more specificity, things to do in the Southern United States. The first thing that I got was a website that said things to do in the Southern region. I clicked on it and very quickly realized it was talking about the Southern region of Norway. And then the next thing was the 30 funnest things to do in South Korea. Was 25 things to do in South Dakota. Then we finally get to Texas. The top 10 things to do in Texas. They all had to do with paddleboarding and jet skiing and fishing. Nothing to do with Texas's rich Southern history. And then there was the best places to visit in South Carolina. And I thought, well, there's one that I definitely want to take a look at. And so let's go through the list real quick. First of all, there's Myrtle Beach. Second is Charleston's Historic District. You'll feel like being transported to the past when you visit Charleston's Historic District. Horse-drawn carriages, walking tours will take you through colonial houses and their antebellum architecture. There are several museums where you can have a peek into the turbulent past of this historic city. And with the words antebellum and turbulent past, they have totally blown over South Carolina and particularly Charleston's Confederate history. Then there's Caesar's Head State Park, Pawleys Island, Congaree National Park, Hilton Head Island, Huntington Beach State Park, the Fort Sumter National Monument. The historic Fort Sumter was the site where the American Civil War started, while the actual fort still has some caverns and the cannons which fired the first shot at the fort. The Visitor Education Center will provide more details about the fort. A ferry ride is necessary to reach Fort Sumter, and while on board, you will have to keep a watch for dolphins. No wonder it is listed among one of the top 10 historic places to visit in South Carolina all around the year. And so again, they've just kind of blown over the significance of Fort Sumter and the state's rich war between the states history. There's Middleton Place. There's the Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum, Brook Green Gardens, Falls Park on the Reedy, the South Carolina State Museum, Natural History, Art, Technology, Culture, Science. There is so much to see and learn at the South Carolina State Museum, one of the biggest museums in South Carolina. 4 floors hold galleries, each exhibiting several displays. The one to watch out for are the Megaloon shark sculpture and the first locomotive entirely built in the U.S. The museum hosts temporary exhibits, and you'll love the 4D theater having vibrant seats, air blasts, leg ticklers. Multimedia displays are providing an interactive experience to visitors. Again, no mention of the Confederate Room or any of the Confederate artifacts in the South Carolina State Museum. The Riverbanks Zoo and Gardens, the DuPont Planetarium, the Magnolia Plantation and Gardens. You'll be surprised to know that many flowers and plants here in Magnolia Plantation and Gardens date back to the start of the American Civil War. Flowers here bloom throughout the year, so you'll be able to spot incredibly colorful flowers at any time of the year. Magnolia Plantation and Gardens is one of the oldest public gardens in the U.S. and is a feast for the eyes with its superb romantic-style surroundings. You might spot an otter somewhere, perhaps an alligator, and if you are watchful, there are colorful waterfowls too. So again, totally blowing over the significance of this property during the war between the states. And then there's Charleston Tea Plantation. Surround yourself with the exhilarating smell of tea in the Charleston Tea Plantation. that offers a lot of exposure to enjoy top things to do in South Carolina. There's the Peace Center in Greenville, the Angel's Oak, which is a 500-year-old tree, Alligator Adventure, where you can go and see some alligators. And those are the top things to do in the state of South Carolina. Again, the first state to have seceded and formed the Confederate States of America, and yet they totally just ignore that rich history and heritage. Anyways, we have to break for another commercial, but we'll be back with the next installment of TBR Radio Presents, the Dixie Heritage Show. Stay tuned.
Open your web browser and type in www.barnesreview.org and discover the Barnes Review magazine. In the Barnes Review, you will read vignettes of man, from the prehistoric to the very recent, from forgotten races and civilizations to first-person accounts of World War II and the late Cold War. There is no more interesting magazine published today, nor a more significant and important subject than real history. So visit www.barnesreview.org and subscribe to the Barnes Review. You can subscribe to receive the Barnes Review magazine in its print form, or in convenient electronic delivery. Our host has been a subscriber to both formats for years. So visit www.barnesreview.org and subscribe to the Barnes Review.
We're back here on TBR Radio Presents, the Dixie Heritage Show. We're talking about things that are being buried on the internet, particularly things that are of interest to Southerners, things that have to do with the war between the states, the Confederate States of America, or anything that would paint the South or white Southerners in a friendly, positive, or enthusiastic light. Typed in Robert E. Lee into the search engine, and I had to go 4 pages in before I found anything positive about Robert E. Lee. That means that the first 40 search results were things that were negative about Robert E. Lee. Articles, in many cases, that were just outright lies. Something else that you're finding buried on the internet right now are the results to Arizona's forensic audit of the 2020 election. Guess what, folks? Trump won in a landslide. The results of Georgia's forensic audit are also in the state of Georgia. Once again, Trump won in a landslide. Marjorie Taylor Greene, congresswoman from the state of Georgia, dared to post the statistical results, the numbers, if you will, of Georgia's forensic audit of the election, and she was kicked off of Twitter for having done so. We do not know the results of Pennsylvania's audit, but we do know that the election authorities in Pennsylvania decertified each and every electronic voting machine in the state upon seeing the audit's results. So chances are that probably means Trump won Pennsylvania as well. You take the electoral votes of Pennsylvania, Georgia, and Arizona, and what do you have? Donald Trump won the presidency in the 2020 election. You're not going to see that one on the internet, folks. You're not going to hear it on CNN. You're not even going to hear it on Fox News. Well, we need to break for one last commercial, and then we will have the final segment of TBR Radio Presents, the Dixie Heritage Show. Stay tuned.
Read all about it.
If you're like me, and I'll bet you are, you like to be on the cutting edge of honest news and accurate information. 26 times a year, the American Free Press newspaper can be delivered to your door, packed with the kind of uncensored news that I know you're going to appreciate. If you're ever dissatisfied with your subscription to the American Free Press, their guarantee is that you just drop them an email and they will gladly refund the unused portion of your subscription. So what are you waiting for? Visit www.americanfreepress.net. Once again, www.americanfreepress.net. And find out about the American Free Press. Do it today.
Extra, read all about
And
it.
as we head into this final segment for TBR Radio Presents the Dixie Heritage Show, I want to thank you for spending this past half hour with us. And know that we'll be back again, same time, same place next week, and we'll have another great show for you. Until then, go to our website, www.dixieheritage.net, www.dixieheritage.net. Sign up for my free weekly email newsletter, the Dixie Heritage Letter. And when you do, I'll also send you a copy of my book, The Truth About the Confederate Battle Flag. I'll give you both, absolutely free of charge, no cost, no obligation. As always, it's my joy, my privilege, my honor to be your host here. And I look forward to talking to you again next week. Until then, God bless.